episode of Elise's Eats, and today I'm going to show you how to make homemade croissants. Now, it's quite a long process, but honestly, it's so worth it in the end. They're so buttery, flaky, and delicious, and you'll be proud of yourself because you can say, I made these, I didn't buy these. It's pretty good. So making croissants isn't very difficult. It's more just a very long process where you have to repeat yourself quite a lot. So don't be scared. Trust me, if I can do it, you can do it. And I'm going to show you how. And these are the ingredients you're going to need to get started. So you're going to need 1 cup of milk, 4 1/4 cup of plain flour. You may need extra for the dough later on. 1/4 cup of warm water. 40 grams of really soft unsalted butter, 1/3 cup of caster sugar, 2½ teaspoons of salt, and 1 tablespoon and 1 teaspoon of instant yeast. Then we're going to need 250 grams of cold unsalted butter, and then 2 eggs. So this should make between 12 to 14 regular sized croissants. Or you can make mini ones or a giant one. No, we're just gonna make regular ones. Okay, let's get started. Okay, so to first make the dough, we're going to take our warm water and put our yeast, sugar, and salt all together. Then we're going to stir this together and let it sit for about 5 to 10 minutes. So this is what it looks like after about 10 minutes. It's just gotten a little bit foamy. Okay, once our yeast mixture has been sitting out for about 10 minutes, we're going to add everything to our mixer with a dough hook attachment and let it mix until it all comes together. This should take about 5–10 minutes. If you are mixing this by hand, it's probably going to take quite a lot of effort and probably about double the time of mixing it together, and you're probably going to have to knead it a bit longer, so I highly recommend trying to use a dough hook because save your arms for the gym. Make sure you get all the yeast out of the bowl as well. Clean hook. So this is roughly what we want with our dough. It shouldn't be too sticky and it shouldn't be overly dry. If you find that it's too sticky, just add a few teaspoons of flour. If it's too dry, add a little bit more milk. But you should be able to press into it and it should recoil back slowly. Okay, so now we're just gonna put our dough onto our work surface and knead it. Now don't put any extra flour because this can make it actually a bit too dry. Now the best way to knead is to always bring up and from the center push down and away from you. That way you can get all the weight into your heel of your hand. And then whenever you're bringing it back up together, turn it a 1/4 rotation and then redo. And we're going to knead this for about 5 minutes. Now if you mixed all this together by hand and not by your dough hook, you're going to need a little bit longer. If you find that your dough is too sticky while you're doing this, then you haven't added enough flour, and if you're finding it's crackling, then you haven't added enough liquid. Okay, so I've been kneading mine for just over 5 minutes, and when you turn it over, it should be nice and soft. And if you touch it, it should recoil. I just like touching the dough. It's actually so soft. It's amazing. So after kneading this for about 5 minutes, we're going to put it in a bowl, cover it with cling wrap, and then let it rise or proof for about an hour until it's slightly doubled in size. This dough isn't going to rapidly increase, it's just gonna puff up a little bit. This just helps relax the gluten in the dough and make it become nice and soft and doughy. Okay, so now we're going to let this rest for about an hour at between 23 to 25 degrees Celsius. A nice warm environment for our little dough to grow. Oh, cute. But yeah, so we're going to leave that for about an hour and I'll show you what it looks like. Okay, now this next step of making the butter slab can be made any time between the dough rising and tomorrow when we actually make the croissants. But we're going to do it now to save time because I like saving time. So we're going to now make the butter slab, which will go in between the dough and make the buttery flakiness of the croissants. It's so good. But I don't usually measure things when I make this, so I'm going to give you rough measurements. I usually make about a 20 centimeter by 20 centimeter square of butter, which is about the size of a large Ziploc bag. So what we're going to do is put the butter in a Ziploc bag, make it into a square, and then put it between some baking paper and roll it out. Of course, if you don't want to use the plastic bag, you can put the butter straight between 2 sheets of baking paper and roll it out to 20 centimeters by 20 centimeters square. But this is an easy, shortcut way to do it, so we're doing it. So once the butter's all in the bag, we're just gonna smash it all together with a wooden rolling pin. Okay, now the thing with this is, these are homemade croissants. So don't worry if the butter square is not exactly 20 centimeters by 20 centimeters. You want it roughly that. No one's going to make fun of you or judge you if it's slightly more or slightly less. At least I won't. Maybe some people will, but I love you the way you are. Later on, when the butter softens, you can just use your fingers to move it all around. Then you just peel away the plastic bag and put it on the baking paper. Wow. Now, if by some chance your baking paper fell on the floor, get some new baking paper and then put it on top of the butter slab. And then roll it out to an equal thickness of about 3 millimeters to half a centimeter thick. And 20 centimeters by 20 centimeters. Get your trusty ruler. Oh my god, it's slightly over 20 centimeters, but it's uneven. If you're really that pedantic, of course you can cut that edge off and just put it on top. Yeah, see, that's a bit too long there, so I'm gonna cut off probably about there. Cut it off. And then if there are any thinner bits of butter slab, then just place it on there and re-roll it out until it's about 20 centimeters again. Once you roughly have your 20 centimeter shape, what I'm going to get you to do with your fingers is kind of pinch the edges around so that it kind of seals the butter off with the paper. Okay, now we're going to put this in the fridge for at least an hour or overnight until we make our croissant dough complete. Okay, so our dough's been resting for about an hour and 10 minutes. And it hasn't quite doubled in size, but it has grown quite a bit. So what we're going to do is just put it back on our work surface, knead it for a couple of minutes, put it back in the bowl, and then put it in the fridge overnight. You'll see what I mean by the dough has softened or relaxed, because when you first start working it, it's so nice and soft. It's so nice. Then place back into the bowl. Cover up with cling wrap again, and then leave it in the fridge overnight, or at least a minimum of 6 hours. Yay. Okay guys, so our dough was in the fridge overnight, and now what we're going to do is we're going to flour our working surface, and what we're going to do is we're going to roll out a rectangle that's roughly twice the size of length of our butter slab and a little bit wider, about 22 centimeters by 44 centimeters. You'll see why. Okay, it's coming. Hey! There he is. So just flour it a little bit, and then we're gonna roll it out. Now, when you're rolling out the dough, the best way to do this is to make an indent in the middle and then roll out either side. This just helps keep the thickness uniform. Again, if your dough becomes too sticky, just add a bit of flour to it. But mine is beautiful. Oh my God, look at it. So when you've rolled your dough out into about a 24 by 45 centimeter rectangle, don't worry if it's not exact, just make sure that there's enough so that you can basically fold the dough over your butter with a little bit of excess on the edges. Then simply just take your dough and fold it over the butter. Brush off any of the flour on top. Then what we're going to do is just pinch the sides together so that no butter can escape when we're rolling it. Just going to fold it over so that it's all nice and flat. Okay, once you've pinched and flattened all the sides of the dough, what we're going to do is reflour our surface, and then we're going to roll it out until it's about doubled in size, and then I'm going to show you how to fold it, especially for the first time. Just watch, you'll see. Okay, now as you're rolling this out, try to keep the width of it the same, just over 20 centimeters, but just make it longer. Okay, so for the first fold, we're going to join the edges of these two together. What we're going to do, first of all, brush off any excess flour, and then we're going to fold this about 2/3 of the way up, and then join this together, and then roll it out again. Then pinch these parts together. Now, the reason we're doing this is just because usually these ends won't have much butter, and if we just roll them out normally, then it might not have any buttery goodness, and that's what you want in a croissant. So reflour your surface, roll this lengthwise this way until again it's about 45 centimeters by 20 centimeters, or roughly until it's tripled its original length. Again, start from rolling from the inside out. So it's very important to work with this dough in a cold environment. We've got the AC on 16 degrees. This is just so that the butter doesn't melt, because you'll notice if your butter is too warm, it'll start oozing out of the dough. So basically after we folded this again, we're going to put it in the fridge. For the people at home, this is 21 centimeters by more than 45 centimeters, but you know what? Life is not perfect. Yeah, life is beautiful. I was gonna say not perfect, but we make do. And so you know what? As long as you can fold it into thirds, that's all that matters. Now these next steps will depend on how hot or cold it is in your kitchen. If it's really cold, you probably won't have to put your dough in the fridge as many times because the butter won't melt. But it's quite hot today here, so after we dust off the flour on this layer, fold it into thirds, we're gonna put it in the fridge for about 20 minutes to 30 minutes until the butter hardens again. Into thirds. Then wrap in cling wrap and put in the fridge for between 20 minutes to 30 minutes. Our dough's been in the fridge for about 25 minutes. It's nice and cold now. We're going to re-roll it out to about 45 centimeters by 20 centimeters, then fold it into thirds and put it back in the fridge. Now, the reason we get rid of all the flour on the dough before we fold it is this helps make the pastry nice and crusty and flaky. If you do have flour, that can kind of stick together, or it gives it a kind of powdery taste. So don't do it. We don't want that. But yeah, so we're going to fold it into thirds again and then put it in the fridge, and you're going to repeat this 3 more times. Fridge. Okay, so now I folded my dough in a total of 5 times, including that initial one where we joined the dough. And now we're going to put it in the fridge for about 1 to 2 hours, and you can leave it overnight, but we want croissants today, so we're leaving it in the fridge for 2 hours. Oh. Okay, so now we folded our dough a total of 5 times at that initial time where we joined the dough. And what we're going to do is now cut our dough in half, and then we're going to roll our dough out by 20 centimeters by about 45 centimeters again, but you only want it to be about 3 millimeters thick, between 3 to 5 millimeters. Okay, now the reason we fold our dough so much is because I want you to picture a croissant. When you bite into it, it's all flaky and crispy and crunchy. And what happens, the reason why we fold it is because all of the layering goes dough, butter, dough, butter, dough, butter, dough, butter, dough, butter. But what happens is when you get that layering and you heat it up and it goes all crispy, it's just buttery through every layer, and it's just one of the most incredible things you can experience. And I cry every time. But no, but what we're gonna do now is cut this in half, and I'll show you what I mean with the layering. Might be a little bit hard to see. There should be all these gorgeous little layers. All these little bubbles, each of those is a new layer. So with one half, we're gonna put it back in the fridge because you want to work with really cold dough. Okay, and again, we're going to roll this by 20 centimeters by 45 centimeters. 3 millimeters thick. Okay, so now what we're going to do is take a knife, wow, and we're going to cut our croissants. Basically, we're just cutting nice big triangles. We want to get about 6 or 7 croissants out of this. What we're going to do is cut triangle shapes like so along the whole dough until you have your croissant shapes. If you want baby croissants, you can always cut this in half and do little baby ones, but we're making nice big ones today. Now, of course, you can measure these out so that they're all exact, but these are homemade croissants. So you know what, if they're not perfect, they're gonna taste perfect. So I got about 8 big croissants out of this, more than expected, which is always good. So what I'm gonna show you how to fold them now. So we get our little triangle like this, roughly pull the dough out until it's roughly equal sized. Oh my God, it looks like pizza. And then what you need to do is just with your pastry brush, make sure there's no flour on it. And then just roll our dough up. And then we're going to put these together and then put it on a tray. Then with your cutoffs, just because we don't like any waste of food, you can make tiny little baby croissants like this little baby here. It's so cute.
It's so cute. I wanna cry.
Oh my God.
Oh!
I'm so excited. Oh my God.
Oh.
I can't even fold the wings together.
Oh. Oh, it's a little family.
Okay, so make sure that you use all of your dough. We don't discriminate against size here because look at them. It's a happy little family of extra croissants that are a little bit special. But what we're going to do with our other croissants is we're going to let them prove for about 2 to 3 hours at about 24 degrees Celsius. And this is just going to allow them to puff up, get nice and warm, and just about double in size. It's going to be amazing. So yeah. Okay, now once you've rolled these up, before you proof them, this is the point at which you would freeze them. So you can just put them in a Ziploc bag and put them in the freezer for up to 2 or 3 months. And then when you're ready to cook them, you just take them out and then let them prove as we're doing now. Okay, so now that our croissants have been proofing for about 2 hours and 20 minutes, we're going to make our egg wash, which is basically just cracking 2 eggs into a small bowl, adding a teaspoon of milk and a 1/4 teaspoon of salt. Okay, now that the egg wash is done, we're going to put it on our croissants. Now I'm just doing half of the batch because I've frozen the other half for another time. Make sure you coat the whole croissant. Okay, now when I cook my croissants, I like just having one tray at a time in the middle. That way it cooks much more evenly. If you want to do 2 trays at the same time, you just have to switch them when you're cooking them. But what you're going to do with these is put them in an oven preheated at 200 degrees Celsius for a fan-forced oven for 10 minutes. Then we're going to turn down the temperature to 190 for between 10 to 15 minutes. Now, the little ones will cook differently. I'm focusing on these ones, so. Okay guys, that's how you make my homemade butter croissants. They are a little bit timely, but they are so worth it in the end. So we're gonna save our big ones for later. We're gonna have some of our little ones, which we made because they are so cute. I can't wait. And, oh, let's eat. Okay, let's eat our little croissants.
Petit. Can I have the petit one?
Yeah, you can have the really petit.
The really petit.
Yeah. Okay.
Cheers.
Cheers. Look at those beautiful layers. Do you see all that fluffiness? But you can just see all the beautiful layers in there.
And it smells wonderful.
Oh, smell that right up the nose.
Right up there.
Oh my god.
Crunchy on the outside, soft on the inside, buttery goodness everywhere.
They are so worth the wait. You know when you just eat something and you just need a moment and your brain's just like, I'm not gonna work. And by the way, this is not a diet food. You cannot substitute the butter for other things. You need the butter, otherwise it's not a croissant.
Not the same. What's your favourite thing to put on a croissant?
I like ham and cheese croissants, but I also love Nutella. Actually, jam's quite good too.
Jam is good. My favourite is cheese. Nutella is good too.
Oh, I want to eat all of them. Oh. Might cry from les yeux. Is that eyes? I think so. What is mange? Je mange.
Mange.
Manger.
No, that's I eat.
Mange. Mange le croissant.
Nous mangeons les croissants.
Oui.
I have no idea if that was correct. I did French for several years.
I know, right? And it's just like, it's gone.
So if that is wrong, I apologize. But if it's right, then...
No, I think that's good. Hey guys, thanks for watching this video. And if you want us to make any other food or recipes from anime, manga, TV shows, movies, games, let us know. Comment in the section below. Message us on social media. Talk to our faces. We're pretty friendly, so if you want to. But yeah, so see you next time.
Bye.
Bye.